Why can one unanswered message stay in your head for hours, while a direct rejection can actually feel like a relief? Because rejection gives you an answer. Silence gives your brain a problem to solve. And once you understand what happens inside that gap, being ignored starts to make a lot more psychological sense. Imagine you send a message to someone whose opinion matters to you. You wait. Nothing. You check again. Still nothing. Then the questions begin. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Did they lose interest? Should I send another message? The strange part is that nothing new has actually happened. But inside your mind, an entire investigation has started. That's because the brain is constantly trying to predict what happens next. When information is missing, it doesn't simply sit there comfortably. It tries to fill the gap. This is where uncertainty becomes more powerful than rejection. If someone tells you, "I'm not interested," it hurts. But the situation is clear. Your brain has an outcome. You may dislike that outcome, but you can begin adjusting to it. When someone says nothing, there is no outcome to adjust to. The conversation remains psychologically unfinished, and your mind keeps returning to it because it believes there is still something to discover. This is closely connected to what psychologists describe as the need for closure, our tendency to seek clear answers when situations feel ambiguous or unresolved. But here's the trap. Thinking about the situation feels productive. You replay the conversation. You examine their last message. You search for small changes in their tone. You imagine what they might be thinking. For a moment, it feels like you're getting closer to an answer. But you're not receiving new information. You're simply generating more interpretations from the same information. And that's how uncertainty turns into rumination. The unanswered message becomes 10 possible explanations. Then those 10 explanations create another 20 questions. And eventually, the story inside your head can become far more painful than the silence itself. This is where people often make another mistake. They assume the silence must mean something about them. They're ignoring me because they don't respect me. They must be angry. They've found someone better. They don't care anymore. Sometimes, those interpretations may be true, but you don't actually know, and that distinction matters. The only fact is that you haven't received a response. Everything beyond that is interpretation. Your brain doesn't always distinguish between a possibility and a fact when you're emotionally invested in the outcome. A threatening explanation can feel convincing simply because you've repeated it enough times. So, what can you actually do? Start by separating what you know from what you imagine. You know they haven't responded. You don't know why. That simple distinction interrupts a surprising amount of unnecessary mental noise. Then notice the urge to check your phone again. Notice the urge to send another message, just to make the discomfort disappear. That urge isn't necessarily telling you that another message is needed. Sometimes it's simply telling you that your brain wants closure, and those are two very different things. Give the situation enough time to produce real information before you start creating information yourself. If they respond, you have something concrete to work with. If they don't, their continued silence eventually becomes information too. But you don't need to spend every hour in between constructing an explanation. Because here's the deeper lesson. Being ignored doesn't necessarily hurt more because the other person matters more. It can hurt more because uncertainty keeps your attention trapped. Rejection closes a door. Silence leaves you standing in front of it, wondering whether it might still open. And the longer you stare at that door, the more important it can begin to feel. The goal isn't to become indifferent, it's to become disciplined, about the difference between reality and interpretation. You don't control whether someone responds. You don't control what their silence means. But you can control how much of your mind you give to a question that currently has no answer. Sometimes the most powerful response to silence isn't another message. It's refusing to invent an answer just because the silence makes you uncomfortable. Because the moment you stop treating uncertainty as something you must immediately solve, the silence loses much of its power over you.